those that come don't work and will never, ever work and are a direct drain on the taxes that they themselves pay when they get up in the morning and go to work.
Can I just get some clarity very quickly on if somebody is on benefits but has indefinite leave to remain at the moment, will they be deported? Is that exactly what the policy is? And if so, do you expect legal challenges on that? And if I may, just a second question, what about pensioners who have indefinite leave to remain? They won't be able to apply for a work visa because they're not working anymore, but they may have been in this country for decades.
Let us deal with the main objective of today's press conference. It's to wake everybody up to the Boris wave. It's to wake everybody up to the sheer irresponsibility of the last government and the massive impending cost that will have on this country for decades and decades to come. That is the primary reason that we're sitting here talking with you today. Yes, it is true. There are those here on indefinite leave to remain that are living on benefits. Will we be free from legal challenges? Well, of course, having cut out the Human Rights Act, the European Court in Strasbourg, British courts will be free to make judgments that are the right judgments, which they're not at the moment. We are not for a minute pretending that going back through the backlog is going to be an easy thing to do. It'll be complex, it'll come in many forms, but we do intend to address it. So, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, completely agree. I mean, look, will we get legal challenges to Nigel's entire agenda? Yes. One quite cool feature a government does actually have, if they have the political will and the parliamentary majority to do it, is to change the laws, which ultimately is what legal challenge is dealing with. So as Nigel says, top of the agenda is leaving the ECHR, repealing the Human Rights Act, replacing it with the British Bill of Rights. So to the degree there are legal challenges, Nigel's government will win them.
OK, Romney Weeks from ITV News.
Thank you very much. You seem to be quite keen not to be pinned down too much on the detail, but to talk in broad brush terms. But what is the legal basis, for example, for removing indefinite leave to remain from people who've already been granted it, many of whom will have jobs, lives, family here? And care homes, restaurants, hotels, the NHS are already struggling to fill vacancies with exactly the kind of workers that you would be targeting. Are you happy to further damage those sectors? And how do you expect them to be able to afford to pay for the additional levy to train equivalent British workers?
We've given you full details. None of the 800,000 plus that came here under the Boris wave that will be available to apply for indefinite leave to remain over the course of the next 3 to 4 years, none of them will be given indefinite leave to remain. None of them will be given access to the UK's benefit system, and none of them will be able to bring dependents. That, I think, is quite a lot of very exact policy detail. In terms of staff that are necessary, and I do repeat the point that mass unskilled migration has driven, in many, many cases, the minimum wage to become the maximum wage. Under our proposals, would pay go up? Yes, it would go up a bit, and I think that's a good thing, not a bad thing. Would our proposals help train British people for jobs? It would. But let Zia reiterate how the visa scheme would work for where there are genuine labour shortages.
Yeah, so firstly, again, the premise of your question is everybody who is here on ILR is working. And actually, as we've already pointed out, that the opposite is the truth. Now, there are people who are on ILR who are contributing significantly to this country. We're not disputing that. That's why we are introducing this 5-year renewable visa, albeit with a materially higher salary threshold, so that the people you're referring to, who are adding a lot of value to the country, and fiscally, on a net basis, will be able to stay. That's totally fine, and they will have a path to citizenship. With regards to, for example, care workers, I've already referred to this, they would be inside that ASSV category, acute skills shortage visa. But we want to emphasise, it will be a finite number, it will be capped, it will not be open to abuse, and to the degree that employers benefit from that visa, they will have to fund a programme to train British workers. I want to reiterate, the fact that this doesn't happen currently is the reason why we have had open borders now for so many years. We are giving business... Look, I want to make the other point too, which is, look, if we're serious about saying we're going to cut net immigration to zero, we're going to embark on deporting people who are here illegally, we're going to stop the abuse of our welfare system, yes, there will be some businesses who do have to pay more for that labour. There are 6.5 million British people on universal credit, which is primarily an out-of-work benefit. And only a third of the British people who are on benefits are actively looking for work. Now, we're not going to claim this is some super simple problem to solve, but we are deadly serious about solving it. And it will never be solved if there is a tap for unlimited low-skilled immigration.
Simeon Brown, Channel 4 News.
Many of the people who took part in the protests a few weeks ago to unite the United Kingdom said that their beef was not with people who were here for legal purposes. They said that if you came here and you were working and you were contributing, that was fine for them. Does this policy almost betray British values in the sense of fairness? And fundamentally, has there been an assessment of the cost? Many people on indefinite leave, they are working, they are contributing, they are running businesses. And so has there been a factoring of what impact this could have on those people? And ultimately, does this also set up potentially a kind of Windrush scandal type fiasco, especially when you consider how integrated many of those people really are? You know, they're in marriages, they're in friendships, they're colleagues of people. So this policy has a potential to not only unsettle deep social fabrics, but also have a huge economic impact.
Yeah, I mean, look, the reason that people will answer that at the march or wherever else it may be, and it goes back to the first question that we had today, is there's been no debate on this, there's been no facts. If people are coming here working, contributing, obeying the law, not bringing dependents, not using the welfare system, then people won't have any objections because we're a fair-minded country. What they don't know, because no one's ever told them, is over half of those that come don't work and will never, ever work and are a direct drain on the taxes that they themselves pay when they get up in the morning and go to work. And we're not against skilled immigration into Britain. In fact, Zia's said, of course, we want this. We want people coming in. We want bright people coming in. We want those that will contribute to our society. We will have lower skilled people on visas where there are genuine shortages in the market. We've not had the debate. And I repeat the point. For 20 years, I was told, shut up and go away, because it's good for the economy. And now we can see, not only is there a massive welfare bill, not only is there the impact on the quality of life through a population that has risen by 10 million in 20 years, but that actually, net, financially, if you look at productivity and many other measures and de-skilling of the British workforce, it's been a net loss. On the complexity of families going back, we understand that.
Yeah, we do. We absolutely understand that. And, that's why we're giving people advance notice of what's coming. And this will all be in the, frankly, hundreds of pages of legislation that we aim to have ready should reform win the next general election. I want to go back. There was a question earlier about what's the legal basis for revoking on a retrospective basis ILRs that are already here. I want to be really clear about this. Parliament is sovereign. Parliament is sovereign. And with primary legislation, that will be the legal basis. Now, our aim, as we've said many times before, is to get Nigel into number 10 Downing Street, flanked by 350 to 400 Reform MPs who believe in this, who understand what our agenda is, and will vote this stuff through. The fact that these questions are even asked in a country like this is just a function of learned helplessness, because we've had 14 years of Tory government that were basically 2 or 3 different political parties in one, and nobody had the political courage. So the answer is primary legislation and Parliament being sovereign.
Martin Beckford from the Daily Mail.
Thank you. You admit these ideas are very bold. Do you not have any concern that by promising such huge savings and massive reductions in immigration, you're bound to disappoint your voters who already have very low trust in politicians on this issue? Thank you.
I understand we're aiming high. I understand we're ambitious. We need to be. The country's in dire trouble. Dire trouble economically, dire trouble socially. These are, let's put it to you like this. There's nothing we're proposing that we don't think is doable. And the primary purpose of today's press conference, as I'm going to say for a third or fourth time, is to make sure that the Boris wave do not qualify for ILR, are not able to bring dependents, are not able to claim benefits. Otherwise, the cost to our welfare system over the next 5 to 10 years will literally send us under economically. That is absolutely achievable. And indeed, when we spoke at the previous conference about deportations of illegals, we had the former head of Border Force saying, yeah, actually, the numbers that they've talked about are realistic. Is it going to take great political will to achieve these things? Yes. And that's why those people that stand for us at the next general election, we don't want careerists, we want people who genuinely believe in this mission. Thank you. Ryan Saby from The Sun.
Thank you very much. With so many overseas workers who could possibly be leaving, are you sure and how convinced are you that British workers have the appetite and aptitude to do many of the jobs, especially with many on the long-term sick and 2.6 million on that long-term sick?
Well, we have to revise the long-term sick. The system that's been in place over the course of the last few years is frankly farcical, where you go to a family GP, you say you've got depression, the family GP feels pressured to sign you up. I mean, during the pandemic, it was being done on 10-minute Zooms, and a lot of that needs to be revised. It just is ridiculous that, another 1,000 people a week are going on to long-term sickness, disability benefits, and frankly being written off and told that they're victims. It's not good for them either. So look, we are going to have to. One thing that will encourage people to go to work, of course, is the fact that, we're saying that average wages under these plans will go up. And I understand that some employers will say, look, life is tough, etc. But equally, when you've got 1 million people now, 1 million people in work who would be better off coming off work and getting sickness and disability benefit, tells you what a terrible poverty trap we're stuck in this country. And that is why, and this is an aspiration we can't do in the first year, this will take time, but it's why our ultimate aspiration will be to raise to £20,000 the threshold at which people start paying tax. And that would get us out of this 16-hour-a-week trap. People who want to go to work, but if they work for more than 16 hours, they're worse off than they currently are. I accept, and referring back to Martin's question earlier, that's not something we can do overnight. We would need to have created a massive investment and huge growth to get there, but it's where we intend to get to.